The Glacier Express, the Maharaja's Express, the Orient Express. There are some trains whose very names let you know you're in for an epic experience. Others have names so nondescript you'd never know you were about to be swept along, for example, from Rome to Naples, past gorgeous countryside, forested mountains, and colorful towns that hug the sparkling sea. The point is, there's a whole world of rail travel out there that can satisfy any kind of wanderlust. And today's guest is an expert at making sure that when you're choosing a trip, you are on the right track, as it were. As Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Railbookers, Jim Marini has ridden the rails across the globe, and we are so happy to have him with us to share his insights. Jim Marini, welcome to Well Traveled with AAA.
Oh, thank you so much, Abby. So excited to be here today.
Well, so excited to talk to you. So let's start at home in North America, where there are some great opportunities to combine two of everyone's favorite things, national parks and train travel.
How about Glacier National Park? Glacier is by far one of our most popular areas. And, when I think of Glacier National Park too, Abby, deep valleys, lakes, forests, alpine scenery, it's only part of what makes Montana's Glacier National Park so absolutely incredible. And we have some fantastic packages there.
So what would that look like for listeners who haven't been to that part of the world and maybe haven't taken a train to that part of the world?
Well, on board the train, you can actually be in your own sleeping accommodation, so you can be able to relax. And whenever any folks do upgrade to sleepers, they get all their meals included on board the trains. But they'll travel through valleys. Once they start getting closer to Montana, you start to see these big, beautiful mountains in the distance until they actually arrive at Glacier National Park. Yeah. And, one of the things we love mentioning too, Abby, is the train station is only about 209 steps away from Glacier Park Lodge.
So within 209 steps of exiting the train, you are in the park. And are you spending a day there? Are you with guides who've been booked for you? What does the experience sort of look like for passengers?
Absolutely. And this is similar to all of our trips. So again, whether it's any of our Amtrak vacation packages here in the lower 48, the continental United States, including Glacier National Park, or with Railbookers around the world, again, where they can plan and arrange these trips right through AAA. When they travel, all our trips are what we call FIT, flexible independent travel. So it basically allows them to have their hotel included, their train travel included. Again, if listeners want to upgrade to their own private sleeping accommodations where they'll get meals on board the train, we always include sightseeing as well. So as an example, when I went to Glacier National Park just a few years ago, we arrived in the evening after having a great overnight journey from the great city of Chicago, arrived right there at Glacier National Park train station and stayed at the Glacier National Park Lodge. We had dinner that night, and the next day it was really special. We got picked up right at the front doorstep of Glacier Park Lodge by our local tour guide, and it was a smaller group, only about 18 to 20 people, and it was a full day locally guided tour. So we went deep into the park. We had plenty of time to take pictures, videos, look at the great wildlife. And something interesting for your listeners to know, Glacier National Park is actually only open, believe it or not, 4 months of the year: June, July, August, and September. And it's probably one of the reasons why it's the most popular destination in all of the United States for us, let alone to the national parks, because it's a seasonal national park. But absolutely amazing. We had a chance to also have lunch at leisure on our own. And before we knew it, we were back at the lodge for dinner time before having a day at leisure the following day, where we were able to go right into the town, do a little shopping, have some of the local delicacies like huckleberry pie, for instance, which is, I don't know if you've ever had huckleberry pie or not, Abby, but it's a similar.
I haven't had it there, and I'm sure it's 1,000 times better there.
It's very good. Very, very good. No complaints. just an amazing area. I want to say too, Glacier National Park for your listeners, home to over 130 pristine named lakes, 5 national historic landmarks, and over 1 million acres of land, believe it or not, that boasts parts of 2 mountain ranges, over 1,000 species of plants, and again, some great wildlife as well.
If you'd like to learn more about Railbookers Rail Adventures, AAA travel agents can help you find the best experience for you. They'll make sure you're getting the best value, exclusive AAA member benefits, and up-to-date travel information to help you plan your dream vacation. Visit AAA.com/travel to connect with a AAA travel agent. That is easily one of the most epic train trips you can do. But I would say the Grand Canyon might rival it. What is that like from a train travel perspective?
Something to keep in mind too for all your listeners, and many of your listeners may be aware of this. Many of the trains don't always go right into the national parks, and with Amtrak Vacations, we travel to mostly all the national parks in the United States. Again, where AAA can help arrange those arrangements for your folks. But what's nice is, for not only Glacier National Park, which literally gets you right into the heart of Glacier, but Grand Canyon, we partner with the Grand Canyon Railway, which is really one of the local Wild West style trains, right? So it's actually not part of the Amtrak train system itself. But what we do is, for any of the listeners, when you travel to the Grand Canyon, you actually will travel to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, and it travels right from Williams, Arizona. It's about a 2 to 2.5 hour train ride, and you go through the pine forest as you depart. And I always say, before you even travel into the south rim of the Grand Canyon, and the train brings you right into the south rim of the Grand Canyon. I mean, it doesn't,
Incredible.
same as Glacier, yeah, it doesn't get to be a better location. There's always like a little Wild West show right there at the Grand Canyon Railway train station. Kind of gets everyone in the mood and excited. And then you get to travel on the train, and it does have the dome rail car as well, which has the big glass dome windows, giving them more of the scenery. And there's always some type of snacks and refreshments on board. Again, short 2 hour and 15 minute, and you arrive right there in the south rim of the Grand Canyon. So, interesting, the Grand Canyon too, just for your listeners. I always love giving some fun little facts. Stretches over 277 miles long, 1 mile deep, and up to 18 miles wide, just to kind of put it in perspective. And this is what I mentioned earlier, as amazing as it is to travel around the world. And I love traveling around the world, just like I'm sure so many of your listeners. There's so much right here in our own backyard, including the Grand Canyon as well.
Absolutely. And how about rail travel in Alaska? That must be a real standout as well.
Well, the first thing I'm going to suggest to all the listeners, travel on board Alaska Railroad. Folks, this is a 4-star, 4-diamond train. Now, it is train travel during the day, and we have various routes that any of your listeners can take, where they can either go southbound, which is typically our most popular route, which starts in Fairbanks and travels south down through Denali National Park, over to Talkeetna, into Anchorage, even as far as Seward, or it can start in southern Alaska and then travel north. Seasonality, typically May through September, is the most popular. But what I'm going to mention to all your listeners is to consider Gold Star service. Now, Gold Star service on board Alaska Railroad is the premium level that's available for any of your listeners if they travel on board by rail throughout some of these great areas within Alaska. When they upgrade to Gold Star service, Abby, not only do they sit inside of the big, beautiful glass dome car every day as they travel from one great destination to another, and obviously in Alaska, you've got tons of, snow-capped mountains, wildlife as they're traveling through from one area to the next. But while they're traveling, they're also experiencing cuisine. So meals are also included, like that fresh Alaskan salmon, which right? You know what I know. You can't go wrong when it comes to Alaskan salmon. So That's also included as they travel through. So again, when they upgrade to Gold Star service, not only do they sit inside of the glass dome car, not only do they have all their meals included every day while they're traveling on board the train, but they also have their own private tour guide during the day on board the train as they travel from one destination to another. They have their own outdoor viewing platform, which gives
Oh,
them
wow.
that fresh Alaska air to get that fresh air as they're traveling.
Wow.
And did I mention, Abby? Two complimentary adult beverages. Why not, right? You're on vacation.
Why
You
not?
might as well enjoy. So that's
So
another fun part.
interested in taking a journey of a lifetime on Railbookers train rides around the world? Experience exceptional accommodations, fine dining, and impeccable service while taking in breathtaking views and exploring iconic destinations. Visit AAA.com/railbookers for exclusive offers and all the information you need to book a rail vacation. Before we leave North America, how about some favorite Canadian rail voyages to share with our listeners?
To me, if you're going to travel to Canada, I mean, obviously, Western Canada, the Canadian Rockies, is iconic. I mean, it really is. One of our best partners in the world that we work with would be Rocky Mountaineer. That is a 5-star, 5-diamond train. But what's nice is for your listeners that want to see more of Canada, they want to see not only the western part of Canada, not only British Columbia, the province, but they want to go beyond there. They want to go from Jasper out to Toronto, or maybe from Toronto out to Jasper, even Eastern Canada. Well, we use Via Rail. Via Rail is the national train of Canada, another 4-star, 4-diamond train. 5-star, 5-diamond would be the top of the line, right? This is such an amazing train. And what's nice about Via Rail, which is unique, is your listeners, if they have on their wish list to do a cross Canada, a trans-Canadian journey, which
Mhm.
basically means it's multiple consecutive nights traveling from, either Eastern Canada or Western Canada, they can upgrade to a prestige class cabin. Now, we have cabins for one for any single solo listener that's joining us. We have cabins for two, so two people rooming together. And typically in a cabin, there's always a toilet as well as a vanity. The
Mhm.
showers are available, but they're down the hall. The only folks that use them are only people that are in cabins. However, we also have prestige class, and I think you might hear the theme of today's, around the world by rail. Whenever
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for your listeners, if as long as it fits within their price point and their budget, to be able to upgrade for any additional items. Prestige class, there's only 6 of these available on every one of the trains that go from Toronto to Jasper, or Jasper to Toronto, or even all the way to Vancouver. These are on the train known as the Canadian. That's the name of this train, called the Canadian. And when they do upgrade to prestige class, Abby, they have all their meals included, right? Just like they would on Alaska Railroad, right? They also have their own private butler. How cool is that, right? Someone who's there just for them exclusively during their train journey. They
Yeah.
have, yeah, they also have a queen size bed. So typically on most trains worldwide, typically it's bunk bed style, right? Because again, it's the trains are not as wide. However, on board Via Rail, if they're in prestige class, it's a queen size lower bed, which is nice. They have
Wow.
their own lounge car towards the back of the train. It's just amazing. And one other point that I'll mention, as your listeners, if they've ever had this on their wish list or bucket list as they're traveling overnight through the prairies from, Eastern Canada out to Western Canada, when they have meals included as well, Abby, the meals reflect the region. So, as an example, when they're traveling through the central part of Canada, otherwise known as the prairies, they'll have more lamb and beef. When they're out towards Vancouver, it'll be more of a seafood or Asian flair as far as the different types of cuisine. But anytime they do upgrade to a private sleeper, whether it's prestige class or cabins for one or cabins for two, all their meals are included from the time they board the train until the time they disembark.
Well, fantastic. And speaking of cuisine, let's move to Europe. Um,
Yes.
and I know that you yourself were recently there, experiencing not only amazing rail travel, but also some of the culinary add-ons that can be booked when you are doing this kind of trip. Could you share the highlights of your own recent experiences there?
Absolutely, Abby. I would be more than happy. And, folks, sometimes you just can't put a price to being able to travel and experience some of these destinations firsthand. So, Abby, as an example, we have one of our most popular tours, which really is the major, signature cities of Italy, right? Rome, Florence, and Venice. And that's exactly what we did: Rome, Florence, and Venice. But when we were looking at the trip, we actually traveled because it is my son's senior graduation trip. He's graduating high school this year, and we wanted to do something. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we wanted to do something special. My mother-in-law also, which we were extremely grateful, helped to chip in so we could all afford to go, and she joined us. So it was six of us. So my wife and I, our three children, along with my mother-in-law. And when we were looking at the trip, we were so excited, not only to see some of those iconic sites like the Colosseum or the Uffizi Gallery or taking a gondola ride, but I said, well, what is Italy known for, right? As well as many places throughout Europe and even around the world, it's cuisine. So on our tour, which any of your listeners can do, and again, they can do it right through their local AAA travel agency and office, we added in what we call the secret food tours of Rome, the secret food tours of Florence, secret food tours of Venice. So, as an example, in Rome, we went to one of Rome's oldest cafes for a cappuccino. Then we headed on a short little walking tour of the historic markets, and everything was closed. So as we were walking from, one little, establishment and restaurant and coffee shop to another, we didn't know where we were going. That's what made it kind of fun. And these groups too, Abby, it was special because the groups are small groups. So even though all our trips are what we call, again, flexible, independent travel, there's still days where we had half a day tours included with local tour guides, or some days we had full day tours included. But the secret food tours were only about 3 hours, which was beautiful. So it allowed us to have a nice buffet style breakfast in the morning, which we typically include on all of our packages throughout Europe and around the world. So we had a nice buffet breakfast. Then we were able to do some sightseeing on our own before the tour began. And what was great that I loved is a nice sampling of different types of cuisine. So not only did we have, the lattes, the cappuccinos, the espresso, but then we had, prosciutto and mortadella and some of the local cheese. We also went to an outdoor market, as I was walking around, and it was vibrant, and, kids playing around and, listening to the beautiful Italian language, while our tour guide was giving us commentary throughout. And the other cool thing is we also offer the option, if any of your listeners that are interested, like I was, to include these secret food tours. They also offer the optional upgrade if you want to include what they call the drink package, which includes either wine or limoncello, which was really nice as well.
Yeah. So you're really living it up.
Oh yeah.
And then I think another kind of extension people can do to rail tours is river cruises, right? Is that something you're seeing more of?
That is so extremely common for any of your listeners that are going or planning to travel on any river cruises, let's say on the Rhine River or the Danube River or the Mediterranean cruises. Why not extend the trip and see more of the destination before or after while you're there as well? Yep.
And I can't let you leave Europe without at least some discussion of one of everybody's favorite train travel destinations, Switzerland. What would be a standout train for you in Switzerland?
Oh yes. Well, I'm glad you asked. There's two. So I can't even tell you one or the other. But to me, it's the Bernina Express train and it's Glacier Express, right? So real in a nutshell, Abby, Bernina Express, right? Now, if you could picture this, right? Your listeners can picture this. When you travel on the Bernina Express, it's about a 4 to 5 hour train ride. So it's, shorter train, not a full day. But the way I describe traveling on the Bernina Express, and stay with me, everybody, all right? It's almost as if you're traveling on a roller coaster that goes 10 times slower. And the reason why I mentioned that, right? So if you could picture this, right? The reason why I mentioned that, there's lots of hairpin turns. It goes over bridges, aqueducts, through tunnels, down into the cute little towns and villages and valleys, over the mountains. I mean, the entire train route, Abby, on the Bernina Express, the entire train route is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, literally the entire train route. And when your travelers are on board, everyone sits in the big, beautiful glass dome window. Like the entire train has the big, beautiful windows. So, I
Right.
mean, I remember being on the train myself, and I just could not get over how it literally sliced in and out of these quaint little towns and villages, and people were walking around and shopping, and kids were playing in the playgrounds, and it was just I couldn't believe it. And the mountains in the distance, and the quaint little Swiss villages and homes. I mean, it was unbelievable. So that to me was definitely one of my favorite. The other one is Glacier Express. Now, Glacier Express rated one of the top 10 most scenic trains in all of Europe, let alone Switzerland. And to me, when you think Switzerland, trains in Switzerland literally go hand in hand.
Yes.
It literally is almost impossible not to experience multiple iconic, beautiful trains. And on Glacier Express, this train is 7 to 8 hours, so it'd be twice as long. But something with Glacier Express, if this is on any of your listeners' wish list as well, definitely consider what they call excellence class. Excellence class is the premium level on board Glacier Express, where Bernina Express, you can sit in any of the main seatings on board the train. Glacier, because it's a longer train ride and it travels throughout the heart of Switzerland, your listeners have the option to upgrade, just like I did when I went there a year ago myself. When they upgrade to excellence class, Abby, there's only 20 seats available total on every train departure in excellence class. So it's very limited, but imagine which ones sell out first. Excellence class every time, every departure, right? Because again, there's only 20, but here's the reasons why. Number one, they sit in the big, beautiful glass dome car. They also have what we call 1-by-1 seating. So it's each seat facing each other with the table in the middle. There's a 5-course dinner included. They can also have priority boarding. They have their own iPads that gives them commentary as they're traveling from one iconic destination to another, right? So it is absolutely remarkable. And I heard a great line years ago too, Abby, and I try to live by this myself. I always think about this. People don't always remember what they spent when they have a memorable experience. So when there's an opportunity to just enhance, and just bring more, memories to your trip, your travel opportunity, I always say, as long as it fits within your price point and your budget, absolutely consider taking advantage of it. And that's why this category is the most popular. Always excellence class on Glacier Express.
Are you enjoying Well Traveled with AAA? Subscribe to this podcast today and share your thoughts on ratings and reviews. How about in the rest of the world? I know there are incredibly luxurious and beautiful trains on offer in Africa, in Asia, in South America. What are some of the most bucket listy train travel items that people should be thinking about?
Well, before I go around the world, I did want to mention just a couple other areas within Europe, if any of these might be on your listeners' wish list or bucket list. But Ireland is trending extremely well for us as well. Norway, England, Scotland, right? So these are other areas. But outside of the United States, outside of Canada, outside of Europe, Abby, I'm glad you asked. How about traveling to New Zealand? How about traveling to Australia? For instance, the nice thing with us too, and I was talking about my trip to Italy, and the same applies also around the world on various trains. There are high-speed trains. So as an example, a lot of the high-speed trains, if that's on any of your listeners' wish list, such as the bullet train in Japan, believe it or not, Abby, right? Which I will say we're going to be coming out with later this summer, early fall for 2025, if that's a destination on any of your listeners' wish list or bucket list. Some of these high-speed trains, Abby, can go up to over 200 miles per hour, which is crazy. Same
Yeah.
thing that it did on our trip in Italy. We were on that train known as Trenitalia, which is the high-speed train. But the nice thing with us, too, is it's not only the destinations that we travel to, and let me give you a sampling of the worldwide for your listeners. I
Yeah.
mentioned Australia, I mentioned New Zealand, but folks, we also travel throughout South Africa. We travel throughout South America, India, all throughout Asia as well. I'm actually so excited too, Abby, which I think you've been to as well, if I recall. I'm going to be traveling to Peru as
Love
well,
that.
this summer, and I can't wait to get an opportunity to experience traveling on the train known as the Hiram Bingham, which I will mention too is one of the many luxury trains, and that's the nice thing with Railbookers. We not only take care of all the from hotel, sightseeing, tours, meals, transfers through AAA being our best partner. So if any of your listeners are AAA members, they can book any of these trips right through their local AAA office. But what's great is we also take care of the different types of trains. So not only high speed, as I mentioned, not only local and iconic, but luxury. So let me give you a little sampling. I mentioned the Hiram Bingham, right? That's in Peru. The Maharaj Express. These are all 5-star, 5-diamond trains, right? We talked about Canada. Rocky Mountaineer, of course, is a 5-diamond, 5-star train. We also have Rovos Rail, another iconic luxury style train. The Belmont Royal Scotsman. That's actually a train, interestingly enough, Abby, in Scotland. It's one of the only trains in the world that actually stops at night, pulls over so the passengers can get a good night's sleep before it continues on the next day. Most trains, as we know, continue their journey throughout the night. My own personal favorite one, and it's our most popular luxury train in the world, is called the Venice Simplon Orient Express. So the Orient Express, folks, all right? I'm sure many of your listeners have heard about this. This train can either start or end in Paris, travels through Switzerland and Italy. I mean, it is absolutely remarkable.
Well, that leads us really nicely into our final question, which
Yes,
is what well-traveled means to you.
absolutely. Well, to me, I got to say this to all your listeners, and many of your listeners, of course, know this, right? Life is short, and I think what, the years of 2020 and 2021, I think taught us all, myself included, Abby, was I don't want to miss time. I don't want to miss quality time with my friends, my family. So being able to travel with them, spend time with them, that's what well travel is to me. Well travel is you can't put a price tag to the memories that you're going to have with your children. And my wife and I, we often talk about this is, do we want the next greatest and latest new car or truck, or do we want the next greatest, larger, bigger home? Our feeling is no, we would rather travel and create the latest and greatest memories with our family and children, because at some point they all get older and they move on and have their own families. So when I talk and think about what does well travel mean to me, it's doing everything right now and not missing the moments right here, right now, as we did back in 2020, 2021, because again, life is short and it's not a better time to enjoy it as much as we can right now.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. We'll see you out on the rails.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby.
You can find all of our interviews with other travel experts from around the world on the Well Traveled with AAA feed on iTunes and Spotify. We hope you'll rate us or leave a comment and let us know what you think. I'm Abby Kozolczyk. Thanks for listening.